welcome to The Deep Dive. We're here to take source material, articles, research, and just distill it all down to the key insights you can actually use.
And today, we are diving deep into Stefano Gabbana,
The co-founder of Dolce & Gabbana. Fiercely creative, often very controversial.
Yeah, and we had to do this deep dive because the D&G story, it just breaks, like, every rule in the modern business playbook.
It really does. You read the sources and you're hit with this immediate contradiction. Gabbana didn't come from money. He didn't go to business school.
No, not at all. He actually started out in a printing press shop in working class Milan.
And that journey, right, from the son of a printer to the co-architect of a $5 billion luxury empire, that's the hook.
It is.
So our mission today is to really unpack that non-traditional path. We're going to focus on how D&G, unlike basically all of its rivals, is still a completely independent empire.
And how that independence is rooted in, well, instinct and identity. Raw emotion, really, not corporate spreadsheets. And that creates this powerful tension for you, the listener. Because if you look at the luxury world today, it's all about these massive holding companies, LVMH, Kering.
Run on data, optimization.
Exactly, predictability.
Yeah.
And Gabbana's story is just this radical lesson in the power of, I guess, aesthetic conviction.
Yeah.
Radical authenticity.
Okay, let's get into it. The first big contradiction is how they even approached value. We're calling this first segment beauty as currency. Because we usually think of currency as, dollars or euros. But the source material makes it so clear that for Stefano Gabbana, beauty and feeling, that was the real currency.
It's a foundational worldview, and it comes from his upbringing, right? His father worked at a printing press.
So he's around the mechanics of design from day one.
Yes, the textures, the ink, the layout, but the focus wasn't commerce, it was tactile. It was about storytelling. The mindset wasn't how do we get rich, it was how do we create something that feels powerful.
And that idea really crystallizes into their guiding philosophy. You have to hear this quote. Luxury is not about price. It's about identity.
That's it. That one statement just reframes the entire business model. It's not about exclusivity, it's about conviction.
To really get the impact of that, you have to remember what was happening in the early 80s when they launched.
Oh, yeah. The dominant force was Parisian elegance. So you're talking minimalism, beige, a lot of reserve.
Very tailored, very restrained.
That was the market. And D&G just did the complete opposite.
They went maximalist. Sicilian sensuality, that bold black lacework, Catholic iconography.
Things that were considered, vulgar or too much by the establishment, but they were intentionally emotional. They were designed to grab you.
And that aesthetic defiance was matched by their business defiance. And this is so crucial for anyone interested in strategy. D&G never sold out to the conglomerates.
Never. While almost every other major house was getting absorbed by LVMH or Kering companies offering, massive resources and global infrastructure.
Stefano and Domenico just said no. They kept 100% ownership.
It's a huge deal because those big groups, they offer safety and scale, sure, but they also demand conformity. They demand data-driven returns.
Gabbana chose the high-risk, high-reward path. He trusted his instincts, as the sources say, his eyes.
Yeah.
Over any spreadsheet from an investor.
And it paid off. Commercially it paid off. By 2023, D&G reported 1.87 billion euros in annual revenue, all while maintaining full control.
Which just proves that taste, that unique vision, can be your most valuable asset.
It really can.
But doesn't just relying on instinct, doesn't that lead to catastrophic mistakes? Was that independence really worth the constant threat of just, getting it wrong?
Well, that tension is exactly what drives their unique strategy. Which brings us right into our next segment, symbols over sales. Creating mythology.
Right.
Because they didn't have the deep pockets their rivals did. They had to create leverage through vision. They knew you can't just buy influence, you have to design it.
Their first launch in 1985 is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Just total scarcity.
Oh, yeah. The sources say it was tiny, friends as models, a small local venue.
And they clipped desk lamps together for spotlights because they couldn't afford a real lighting rig.
Zero capital. But maximum vision, because they weren't just selling clothes, they were building a whole narrative world.
They were selling Italy.
Yes, but a dramatized, romanticized Italy.
Yeah.
Stories of this, fiercely passionate Mediterranean woman, the powerful Sicilian widow in black lace.
The Baroque Catholic devotion.
They were building a mythology, a very specific one.
So give us a visual. How did they translate that high concept mythology into a product that people actually wanted?
Well, take the early use of the black Sicilian lace and the corset as, armor. While other designers were doing the French le smoking power through tailoring, Gabbana was doing power through sensuality. They didn't invent lace, but they amplified its cultural meaning. Or think about those vibrant mambo prints in the 90s. It wasn't just color, it was the idea of a hot, chaotic, passionate Italian summer street party.
It was theater.
It was total theater. And that mythology became their leverage in 1993. This was their viral moment, way before social media.
I'm talking about Madonna.
Madonna's Girly Show World Tour, she wore a custom jewel-encrusted corset from D&G. That was this massive international pop culture moment.
And it didn't cost them advertising dollars. It cost them creative collaboration.
Exactly. And that one moment established D&G as a global symbol of this unapologetic feminine power.
So Gabbana understood early on that iconography sells for a lot longer than trends. Trends die, symbols are forever.
And you see that focus in his quote, "We never designed for everyone. We designed for the woman who knows who she is."
Which let them just ignore whatever the market was demanding and just dig deeper into their own world.
And that digging deeper is what fueled their expansion in the early 2000s. You get D&G Sport, eyewear, and critically fragrances.
Which are still global top 10 bestsellers.
Consistently. By 2006, their revenue crossed €1 billion. And this whole empire was built on ensuring every single piece, from the runway to a bottle of perfume, spoke the same distinct mythological language.
So the takeaway here is, by building a world, this focused, dramatic mythology, Gabbana created a kind of gravitational pull. He let the market come to him instead of chasing it.
Precisely. And that magnetism, that absolute refusal to filter their vision, that leads us straight into the huge risks of their model. Let's talk about segment 3, the paradox of Unfiltered, Eccentricity and Backlash.
Okay, because this is where that independent, instinct-driven model gets incredibly precarious.
It really does.
In the super polished, meticulously PR-managed luxury world, Stefano Gabbana is a total anomaly. He's loud, he's opinionated, he's raw.
Unapologetic. He does not hide behind corporate statements.
And that unfiltered persona, it goes directly into the designs, which often test boundaries.
We mentioned the lace and the religious icons, but think about their early use of gender-fluid silhouettes, decades before that was a mainstream conversation.
His whole philosophy is basically, I'm not here to be liked, I'm here to say something.
Yeah. But saying something loudly can have enormous consequences. And we have to talk about the 2018 crisis in China.
Because this wasn't just bad press. It was a catastrophe for the brand.
A total business disaster. It started with an ad campaign for a show in Shanghai. It featured a Chinese model sort of awkwardly trying to eat Italian food with chopsticks.
And it was immediately seen as culturally tone-deaf. Insulting, even.
Right. But the crisis just exploded when a series of alleged insulting Instagram messages, supposedly from Gabbana himself, were leaked.
He claimed he was hacked.
He did, but the damage was instant. The reaction was swift and devastating. Hours before their huge Shanghai runway show, it was canceled.
Wow.
And then the big e-commerce platforms in China, like Alibaba, they delisted all D&G products immediately.
So that just choked off sales overnight in one of the world's biggest luxury markets.
Completely. And Chinese celebrities, influencers, they all cut ties. The financial fallout was colossal.
It was a test of survival. I mean, most corporate brands facing that would issue some hyper-sanitized, lawyer-approved apology.
Distancing the brand from the personality, right? But D&G did the opposite.
They did. Gabbana and Dolce filmed a direct face-to-camera apology video.
And the sources really highlight that choice. It was raw emotion over corporate scripting. They looked vulnerable, honest, flawed, but human.
And that's the key takeaway for you listening. Being unfiltered is dangerous. It clearly cost D&G billions in lost revenue, but it's also unforgettable. In a world of safe, consensus-driven content, attention is the real currency. And Gabbana built an identity that people just cannot ignore, for better or for worse.
He became a cultural lightning rod. And that willingness to court massive controversy, backed by that deep conviction in their aesthetic, that's what allowed them to survive.
Speaking of ignoring the rules, let's get to our final segment. Emotion over metrics and the long game. This is how they actually survived that storm.
Right, because Gabbana has this radical rejection of data-driven business. He famously said, "Fashion is not numbers, it's soul."
He trusts instinct, how things feel emotionally, in a way that's just completely foreign to modern corporate planning.
And it's not just talk. It drives huge business decisions. Look at their Alta Moda line. It's basically haute couture inspired by Italian opera, by classic art.
And that line doesn't exist for mass sales. It exists to reinforce the mythology, the artistic core of the brand.
Exactly. It's a huge investment driven entirely by emotion, not sales forecasts.
And that connection to their soul is what let them pivot after the 2018 crisis, but without losing their identity.
They didn't fold. They reinvented by doubling down on what they could control. They went hard into high-growth areas like beauty, skincare, and fragrance.
Which appeal to younger markets globally. It's an entry point into the D&G world.
And fascinatingly, for a brand so rooted in tradition, they went hard into digital innovation. The sources mention their move into high-end NFT fashion. They sold a single digital crown for over $300,000.
That's agility, using digital scarcity to reinforce that luxury image.
And now they're expanding the empire into lifestyle. They announced Dolce & Gabbana branded luxury residences in Miami. They're merging fashion with architecture.
They're selling a whole world of taste.
The proof of this long game is in the resilience. Despite everything, revenue climbed back to 1.87 billion euros by 2023. And they kept that crucial 100% independence.
Reinvention is the only way to stay alive, and they did it entirely on their own terms.
So what's the strategic insight? It seems like this refusal to be governed by external validation, whether it's data or shareholders, is what gives you long-term resilience, even if it guarantees you some high-risk volatility along the way.
Exactly. Algorithms might get you initial reach, but emotion and conviction, that's what builds a legacy.
Gabbana basically showed he'd rather fail authentically than succeed by conforming. And that conviction gives the company the gravity to pull itself back from the brink.
So when you boil it all down, the core lesson from this deep dive is, well, it's the paradox of Stefano Gabbana. He didn't build an empire with classic business logic.
Not at all. He built it from soul, from bold imperfection, from just sheer defiance.
He proved that identity can become influence, that your unique taste can be the ultimate currency.
He didn't climb the corporate ladder. He, designed his own staircase and covered it in Baroque velvet.
So we want to leave you with a final thought that goes beyond fashion. We've seen that Gabbana's strength is being unreplicably him, but that authenticity comes with huge risk.
So ask yourself, what is the one thing that you do that no algorithm, no competitor, and no strategy guide can replicate?
That idea that feels too bold, maybe too personal or too emotional, the one you know might get you some heavy criticism.
That thing you've always been told to play down.
That might be the exact thing you should be leading with. Use that feeling, that conviction, to leave a signature. Because being unmistakably authentically you, that's the most valuable asset you have. And it's a one thing that never goes out of style.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.